The first sign was a cascade of satellite failures across the globe. GPS systems stuttered and died. Television broadcasts flickered into static. Cell phones became paperweights as signal after signal went dark. In those first confused moments, world leaders scrambled to understand if this was a coordinated cyber attack or something worse. It was worse. Dr. Amanda Hayes stood at her workstation in the Quantum Communications Institute, watching as readings from deep space monitoring stations spiked off the charts. The massive wall screen before her displayed a real-time visualization of the astronomical disturbance, a tear in spacetime that stretched from Neptune's orbit to Jupiter's in a matter of seconds. "Are you seeing this?" her colleague, Dr. Marcus Wong, called from across the lab. "The quantum fluctuations are unlike anything we've ever recorded." Amanda's fingers flew across her holographic interface, running calculations faster than she could verbalize them. The energy readings suggest multiple objects, each with a mass greater than anything humanity has ever constructed. "Marcus, I think." She never finished her sentence. Every screen in the facility suddenly flared to life with the same image. A being that looked almost human, but wrong in subtle ways that triggered an instinctive revulsion. Its skin was too smooth, its eyes too large and uniformly black, its movements too precise as it began to speak. "People of Earth," the creature's voice resonated in perfect English, though its mouth movements didn't quite match the words. "We are the Vraxan Collective. Your species has been selected for ascending. You have 30 of your Earth days to prepare 90% of your population for neural harvesting. This is a great honor. Resistance is not advised. Failure to comply will result in planetary sterilization." The message repeated in every major language on Earth, cycling through them with mechanical precision. In the stunned silence that followed, Amanda's quantum monitoring equipment started registering strange patterns in the background radiation of space. "They're using some kind of neural network for fleet coordination," she muttered, more to herself than anyone else. Her fingers danced across the holographic controls, isolating the signal. "But there's something odd about the way it's structured." The building shook as sonic booms thundered overhead. Through the lab's reinforced windows, Amanda watched as massive obsidian shapes descended through the clouds, Vraxan ships taking up strategic positions around major population centers. Each vessel was easily the size of a small city, their surfaces so black they seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Military responses began within hours. Nuclear missiles streaked skyward from silos and submarines, only to vanish in flashes of light that left no damage on the alien vessels. Experimental energy weapons, railguns, and even antimatter warheads proved equally useless against whatever shielding technology the Vraxan employed. But Amanda barely noticed the futile attacks. She was transfixed by the data streaming across her quantum monitors. The Vraxan neural network hummed with constant communication, coordinating their vast fleet with perfect efficiency. Yet there was a peculiar gap in their signal processing, a blind spot that seemed impossible for such an advanced species to overlook. "Dr. Hayes," General Laura Martinez's voice cut through her concentration as the military leader strode into the lab, flanked by security personnel. "The President needs answers. What can you tell me about these beings?" Amanda turned from her station, her mind racing ahead of her words. "They're connected, General. All of them, through some kind of collective consciousness. But," she paused, double-checking her readings, "they're completely blind to quantum entanglement. Their entire neural network ignores quantum states as if they don't exist." The general's eyes narrowed. "And why is that significant?" A slight smile crept across Amanda's face, the first since the aliens arrived. "Because, General, they just showed us their weakness. They've evolved so far into collective consciousness that they've lost the ability to process quantum uncertainty. And that means," she gestured to the quantum communication array that her team had been developing, "we might have a way to fight back that they'll never see coming." The building trembled again as another Vraxan ship passed overhead, its shadow darkening the lab momentarily. In that moment of artificial night, Amanda Hayes began formulating a plan that would either save humanity or condemn it. Either way, the Vraxen were about to learn that humanity's response to their ultimatum would be anything but simple. 3 days after the ultimatum, Dr. Amanda Hayes stood in a converted missile silo 200 feet below the New Mexico desert. The facility, hastily repurposed into Project Quantum Whisper's main laboratory, hummed with the energy of 1,000 quantum processors working in perfect synchronization. "Show me the latest test results," she commanded, her voice rough from too many hours without sleep. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the web of quantum entangled particles stretching between their underground facility and a modified weather satellite in low Earth orbit. The satellite, like hundreds of others, appeared dead to conventional scanning. But beneath its dormant exterior, quantum circuitry pulsed with invisible life, completely undetectable to the Vraxen's monitoring systems. "We've achieved stable entanglement across the network," Dr. Marcus Wong reported, his usual jovial demeanor replaced by intense focus. "But maintaining it at this scale," he shook his head. "We're burning through processors faster than we can manufacture them." Amanda studied the data streams, her mind racing through possibilities. What if we're thinking about this wrong? The Vraxen's neural network is their strength, but it's also their weakness. They've evolved past quantum uncertainty. They literally can't process it. We don't need to maintain permanent entanglement. We just need enough to. Her voice trailed off as a warning klaxon blared through the facility. Red emergency lights began flashing as General Martinez's voice crackled over the intercom. "Vraxen scout ship approaching. All personnel initiate protocol shadow. This is not a drill." The lab erupted into controlled chaos as researchers scrambled to shut down equipment. Amanda's fingers flew across her console, initiating emergency quantum state collapse across the network. Just as the last signal faded, the entire facility trembled under the weight of the alien vessel passing overhead. Minutes stretched like hours as they waited in darkness. Through specialized sensors, they watched the Vraxen ship conduct its sweep. It paused directly above them, its neural scanners probing the area with cold efficiency. "They're looking for signs of resistance," General Martinez whispered unnecessarily. Everyone knew humanity's survival depended on maintaining the illusion of defeat. Finally, the ship moved on. As systems came back online, Amanda turned to the small group of leaders gathered in the lab. "We need to accelerate the rollout. The Vraxen are getting suspicious of these refugee processing centers we're building." She pulled up a new hologram showing a global map dotted with thousands of red points. Each of these locations needs to be retrofitted with quantum relays disguised as standard relief supplies. The Vraxen expect to see us preparing for surrender. We'll give them exactly that while building our real response right under their noses. "The logistics are impossible," Colonel Richards objected from his position near the door. "We're talking about coordinating a global resistance movement while under constant alien surveillance." Amanda smiled for the first time in days. "That's exactly why it'll work. The Vraxen are watching for obvious resistance, military buildups, weapon stockpiles, unusual energy signatures. They're not looking for quantum entanglement because they literally can't conceive of it as a threat. Their evolution has become their blindness." She brought up another display showing the results of their latest experiment. "We've discovered something else. When we encode human brainwave patterns into quantum states, it creates something like static in their neural network. They can't process the chaos of individual human consciousness." The implication slowly dawned on the gathered leaders. General Martinez was the first to speak. "You're not just building a communication network. You're building a weapon." "Better," Amanda replied. "I'm building a virus. One that uses human consciousness itself as its payload." The Vraxen traded their individuality for collective efficiency centuries ago. They've forgotten what it means to be truly individual, to think creatively, to feel deeply. And that's going to be their downfall. She gestured to the quantum processors humming in the background. "Every human mind we connect to this network becomes both transmitter and weapon. Billions of individual consciousness all broadcasting quantum-encoded chaos directly into their perfect ordered system. The facility shook again as another Vraxan ship passed overhead, but this time Amanda didn't flinch. Instead, she smiled up at the ceiling, toward the unseen vessel above. They think they're watching us prepare for submission, but they're really watching us prepare their destruction. And they'll never see it coming. The refugee processing center outside Phoenix stretched for miles, a sprawling city of prefabricated shelters and relief stations. From the outside, it looked like what the Vraxan expected to see, humanity quietly preparing its population for harvesting. But beneath the facade of defeat, something else was happening. Dr. Amanda Hayes walked through the crowds, her white medical coat allowing her to move freely among the thousands of people queued up for neural compatibility scanning. Each person who passed through the checkpoints received a small silver chip, supposedly to mark them as processed. The Vraxan observers overhead saw exactly what they wanted to see: compliance and order. What they couldn't see was the quantum circuitry hidden within each chip, ready to connect its wearer to the growing invisible network. Status report, Amanda muttered into her concealed communicator as she approached Station 7. The device, like everything else in the camp, operated on conventional frequencies that the Vraxan could monitor. The real messages passed through quantum channels they couldn't detect. Nearly had a problem at distribution point Charlie, Marcus responded through her earpiece. Vraxan Scout got curious about the power readings from the med tent. Quick thinking from Dr. Rodriguez, she amplified the fear responses from the crowd, made the energy spike look like elevated human emotions. Amanda smiled grimly. The aliens' prejudices about primitive emotional species were becoming their greatest weakness. They dismissed so much because they expected humans to be irrational, emotional, and afraid. A shadow passed overhead as one of the massive Vraxan ships moved through the morning sky. Amanda forced herself not to look up. Instead, she focused on the tablet in her hands, seemingly reviewing medical data. The real display, visible only through her quantum-enabled contact lenses, showed the growing web of entangled particles spreading across the southwest United States. Dr. Hayes, a young engineer, rushed up to her, face flushed with excitement, poorly disguised as anxiety. "We've got results from the latest test." Amanda followed him into one of the medical tents. Once inside the quantum-shielded space, he pulled up a holographic display showing a simulation of human brainwave patterns interacting with the Vraxan neural network. "It's better than we hoped," he explained, pointing to the cascade of failures spreading through the simulated alien system. Human consciousness doesn't just create static in their network. It's like a virus. The chaos of individual thought, creativity, free will, it spreads through their linked minds like an infection. A warning light flashed on Amanda's tablet. "Vraxan ground patrol approaching," she announced calmly. "Everyone to your positions." The tent transformed in seconds. The holographic displays vanished, replaced by standard medical screening equipment. As the tall, eerily smooth-skinned alien observer entered, it found exactly what it expected: terrified humans being processed for harvesting. The Vraxan moved through the tent with mechanical precision, its black eyes scanning each piece of equipment. It paused near a quantum processor disguised as a medical scanner, head tilting slightly. Amanda's heart raced, but her voice remained steady. "Is there a problem, observer? These humans are showing elevated fear responses, but that's normal for the processing procedure." The alien's attention snapped to her, its neural tendrils writhing slightly. "Unusual energy patterns," it stated in that too-perfect English. "Explanation required." Amanda gestured to the crowds outside. "We found that human fear generates unique electromagnetic signatures. The more stressed they become, the stronger the energy output. We're monitoring it to prevent panic from spreading through the camp." The observer processed this for a moment, its rigid thought patterns unable to conceive of the true purpose behind the energy readings. Finally, it nodded once. "Continue processing. Efficiency is recommended. 17 days remain until harvest begins." As the Vraxen left, Amanda let out a careful breath. She waited until the quantum sensors confirmed the alien was out of range before activating her secure communicator. General Martinez, the test results are positive. Human consciousness is lethal to their neural network. We can inject chaos into their perfect order. She looked up at the dark shape of the Vraxen ship hovering above the camp. Tell the other sites to accelerate distribution of the quantum chips. We're going to give these aliens exactly what they asked for, just not in the way they expected. They wanted to harvest human consciousness. Let's see how they handle a few billion individual minds, flooding their collective all at once. 20 days into the ultimatum, Amanda stared at the data scrolling across her quantum-encrypted display in the underground lab. Something wasn't adding up. The quantum virus worked perfectly in simulations, but real-world tests showed inconsistent results. Some human consciousness patterns disrupted the Vraxen neural network more effectively than others. Play it again, she ordered, rubbing her tired eyes. The holographic display rewound, showing brain activity patterns from test subjects interfacing with salvaged Vraxen technology. There's a pattern here we're missing. Marcus approached with fresh coffee, setting a cup next to her workstation. Look at Subject 47, he suggested, highlighting one particular dataset. Professional jazz musician. His patterns created the most disruption in the alien systems. And Subject 23, Amanda added, pulling up another file. Children's book author. Nearly as effective. She frowned, connecting invisible dots. What do they have in common? Creativity. General Martinez's voice came from the doorway. The military leader strode in, looking as exhausted as everyone else. They're both creators, artists. Amanda's fingers flew across the holographic interface, pulling up more data. Not just creativity, it's improvisation. The ability to create something new, something unexpected. She highlighted specific brainwave patterns. Look at these neural pathways. They're chaos within order, patterns that never quite repeat. The facility's warning system suddenly blared to life. Red emergency lights began flashing as a voice announced. Multiple Vraxen ships detected on approach vector. All personnel initiate security protocols. Amanda quickly saved her work as the lab transformed around them. Holographic displays vanished, replaced by mundane computer screens showing refugee processing data. But she barely noticed the familiar drill, her mind racing with the new insight. That's why they can't process our consciousness, she whispered, almost to herself. The Vraxen eliminated improvisation from their species. They're pure logic, pure order. But human minds. She looked up at Marcus and the general. We're jazz solos in the middle of their perfect symphony. The building trembled as Vraxen ships passed overhead, but Amanda was already pulling up new simulations. We've been trying to coordinate everyone's quantum signals to create one massive attack. But that's thinking like them, trying to impose order on chaos. Her fingers danced across the controls, modifying the quantum virus's code. We need to do the opposite. Let each human mind improvise, create its own pattern. Billions of individual solos played simultaneously, creating a cacophony their ordered minds can't process. Marcus finished, understanding dawning on his face. The all-clear signal sounded, and the lab slowly returned to normal operation. Amanda immediately expanded her simulation to include multiple randomized consciousness patterns. The results made her smile for the first time in days. Get me the president, she told General Martinez. I know how we're going to win this. Hours later, Amanda stood before a hastily assembled group of military and civilian leaders in the facility's main conference room. The quantum-shielded space hummed with nervous energy as she explained her discovery. The Vraxen aren't just vulnerable to human consciousness. They're vulnerable to human creativity, to our capacity for randomness within structure. She gestured to the global map showing their quantum network's coverage. Each person connected to our network becomes an improviser in the largest jazz band in human history, and this will disable their fleet. The president asked through the secure quantum video link. Better, Amanda replied. "It will break their entire worldview." The Vraxen abandoned individual consciousness because they couldn't handle uncertainty. "We're going to give them an overdose of it." She brought up the latest simulation results. Every human mind connected to the network will broadcast its own unique pattern of thought, creativity, and free will directly into their neural network. No coordination, no attempt to synchronize, just pure human chaos unleashed into their perfect order. "How many people do we need?" the president asked. Amanda's expression hardened. "All of them. Every human being in every refugee camp, every quantum chip we've distributed. We need everyone broadcasting at once. A global symphony of human consciousness." She looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. "The Vraxen thought they could harvest our consciousness. Instead, we're going to use it as a weapon they never saw coming. In 4 days, humanity improvises together, and we show these aliens why you should never underestimate the power of the human mind." The Vraxen harvester ships descended through Earth's atmosphere like obsidian daggers, their massive forms casting mile-long shadows across the refugee camps below. 3 days remained until the harvest would begin. In the underground command center, Amanda watched their approach on multiple displays, each screen tracking different aspects of the alien fleet's movements. "Final status report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the weight of billions of lives hanging on their next actions. The quantum network's holographic representation floated before her, a ghostly web of light showing connection points across the globe. Marcus consulted his readings, dark circles under his eyes betraying endless hours of preparation. "Quantum relays are at 98% efficiency. We're still having connectivity issues in remote areas of Siberia and the Amazon, but the coverage should be enough." "Should be isn't good enough," Amanda muttered, making rapid adjustments to the network's resonance patterns. The quantum processors hummed louder as she pushed them to their limits. "We need everyone. Every single human mind has toe." She stopped mid-sentence, staring at a new pattern emerging in the quantum field calculations. "Wait, look at this." The others gathered around her station as she manipulated the holographic display. The quantum signals from various human consciousness patterns swirled before them, each one unique yet somehow connected. As Amanda adjusted the visualization parameters, the patterns began to align in an unexpected way. "It's like a symphony," she whispered, understanding dawning in her eyes. "Each consciousness is playing its own part, but together." Her fingers flew across the controls, highlighting specific resonance patterns. The quantum field itself is acting as a conductor. General Martinez leaned closer, squinting at the complex data streams. "Explain it in English, Dr. Hayes." "We've been trying to force synchronization, to coordinate billions of minds." Amanda's voice gained strength as she spoke. "But the quantum field naturally creates harmony from chaos. Like how jazz musicians can improvise together without sheet music. They're connected by something deeper than written notes." She quickly pulled up new simulations. "If we modify the quantum relays to act as amplifiers rather than coordinators," the holographic display shifted, showing waves of human consciousness flowing through the quantum network like music through air. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Red warning lights flashed as a mechanical voice announced, "Warning! Multiple Vraxen energy signatures detected on approach vector." "They're early," General Martinez snapped, already moving toward the command console. "All stations, initiate Protocol Omega." "This is not a drill." Amanda's hands raced across her controls, but instead of shutting down the quantum network, she began making rapid adjustments. "No, wait. This is perfect. Look at these readings." The facility shook as Vraxen ships passed overhead, their neural scanning systems probing the ground below. But Amanda's attention was fixed on her quantum displays, where something extraordinary was happening. "The pressure from their scans is actually strengthening the quantum field coherence," she explained, excitement breaking through her exhaustion. "Their own neural network is creating a feedback loop with our quantum network. It's like they're accidentally tuning our orchestra." Through specialized sensors, they watched as 3 Vraxan ships took up positions directly above the facility. Their neural scanning beams intensified, searching for signs of resistance. "They know something's happening," Marcus warned, monitoring the alien communication channels. "Their neural network is showing increased activity." Amanda smiled for the first time in days. "Let them scan. Every probe they send just makes our signal stronger." She turned to General Martinez. "Get me the president. We need to move up the timeline." Within hours, the command center was filled with military and civilian leaders, both physically present and attending via quantum-encrypted channels. Amanda stood before them, her holographic displays showing the final pieces of their plan falling into place. "The Vraxan gave us 30 days to prepare for harvest," she announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the room and to listening posts around the world. Instead, they gave us 30 days to turn their greatest weapon against them. Their neural network isn't just vulnerable to human consciousness, it's going to help us broadcast it. She brought up the global quantum network display one last time, showing billions of points of light ready to ignite. "Tomorrow, we show them why you should never give your enemy exactly what they ask for. The harvest begins at dawn, but we strike at midnight." Midnight approached with devastating slowness. In the command center, Amanda stood before the main quantum display, watching the final seconds tick away. Above ground, thousands of Vraxan ships hung in the dark sky like malevolent stars, their neural tendrils probing the earth below, searching for any sign of resistance. They were about to find more than they bargained for. "All quantum relays report ready," Marcus announced from his station. "Network synchronization at optimal levels." He paused, looking at a secondary display. "The Vraxan are beginning their pre-harvest scan sequence." Amanda nodded, her fingers hovering over the activation controls. Perfect timing. Their neural network is fully extended, trying to map every human mind they plan to harvest. She turned to General Martinez. "Request final authorization." The general connected to the quantum-secured presidential line. Seconds later, a single word came through. "Proceed." Amanda took a deep breath, then pressed her hand to the biosensor, initiating Operation Silent Symphony. Broadcasting in 3, 2, 1. She activated the quantum network. The first signal was a single pure note, Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, chosen for its recognition across human cultures. The quantum-encoded music rippled through the network, carrying with it the consciousness patterns of billions of humans. Each mind added its own unique improvisation to the symphony, creating a cascade of creativity and chaos that flooded into the Vraxan neural network. On the monitors, alien ships began to drift erratically. Their perfect formation wavered as the first wave of human consciousness crashed through their collective mind. "Neural disruption confirmed," Marcus called out, excitement breaking through his professional demeanor. "Their fleet coordination is dropping rapidly. Individual ships are showing signs of consciousness fragmentation." Amanda watched the quantum harmonics display, where billions of human thoughts merged into a tsunami of creative chaos. "Increase power to the Australian relays," she ordered. "We're seeing reduced signal strength in the southern hemisphere." Suddenly, the facility's structure groaned as a massive Vraxan ship descended directly overhead. Its neural scanning beam intensified, bathing the command center in an eerie purple light that penetrated even their shielding. "They're trying to trace the signal source," General Martinez warned, but Amanda was already adjusting the quantum field. "Let them look," she said, her hands dancing across the controls. "Every scan they perform just gives us another channel into their network. Their own curiosity is becoming their weakness." On the main screen, more Vraxan ships began to show signs of disruption. Some spun slowly in place, their crews overwhelmed by their first experience of individual consciousness. Others drifted into each other, their perfect coordination shattered by the infection of human creativity. "Getting reports from around the globe," Marcus announced. "Reading incoming data. Paris reports multiple ships attempting emergency landings. Beijing shows 3 vessels locked in a holding pattern, their crews unable to process commands. New York, he grinned. New York reports Vraxan ships playing Follow the Leader through the skyscrapers. Amanda allowed herself a small smile. They're experiencing individual choice for the first time in their species' history. Their minds can't handle the freedom. She highlighted a particular data stream. Look at these consciousness patterns. The quantum virus isn't just disrupting their network, it's teaching them how to think as individuals. The command center shook again as the Vraxan ship above them fired its engines erratically. Through the quantum network, they could sense the alien crew's confusion and fear, emotions they had never been permitted to feel before. They're broadcasting distress signals, Marcus reported. But something's wrong with their communications. Each ship is sending a different message. Their collective consciousness is fragmenting into individual minds. Amanda watched as the quantum symphony reached its crescendo. Billions of human minds, each contributing its unique voice to the chaos, overwhelmed the rigid order of the Vraxan neural network. Their perfect hierarchy crumbled in the face of humanity's creative disorder. Send the secondary signal, she commanded. Let's show them exactly what they wanted to harvest. As the second wave of human consciousness flooded the alien network, the massive ships above began to respond in increasingly erratic ways. Some fled into the upper atmosphere, their crews unable to cope with their newly awakened individuality. Others simply hung motionless, paralyzed by their first experience of genuine choice. The symphony of chaos had begun, and its music was rewriting the very nature of their would-be conquerors. The command center's main display showed chaos unfolding across Earth's skies. Vraxan ships careened through the atmosphere, their once perfect formation dissolved into random patterns. Some vessels spun in beautiful, aimless spirals, while others performed maneuvers that seemed almost playful. "They're dancing," Marcus whispered, watching the satellite feeds. "Some of them are actually dancing in the sky." Amanda nodded, monitoring the quantum consciousness readings. "They're discovering joy, imagination, individual expression." She highlighted a particular cluster of ships above Paris. "Look at this group. They're trying to mime the shape of the Eiffel Tower." The facility shuddered as the massive command ship overhead suddenly fired all its maneuvering thrusters at once, creating a dazzling but purposeless light show. Through the quantum network, they could sense the alien crew's mixture of terror and exhilaration as they experienced free will for the first time. "Incoming transmission," General Martinez announced. "The Vraxan fleet commander is trying to broadcast to all ships simultaneously." She paused, frowning at her display. "But the message, it's fragmenting." Amanda pulled up the neural network analysis. "Their command structure is breaking down. The hierarchy can't function when every individual is suddenly capable of questioning orders." She highlighted specific data streams. "Look at these consciousness patterns. Each Vraxan is developing their own unique quantum signature." The main screen flickered as the fleet commander's message played, its once perfect English now broken and halting. "All units, return to." "No. No. Why return? Why always follow? The sky is beautiful. I want. The transmission cut off abruptly. On the tactical display, the commander's flagship began tracing elaborate patterns through the clouds, its neural tendrils glowing with unprecedented colors. "Quantum virus has reached critical spread," Marcus reported, excitement breaking through his professional demeanor. "It's jumping from ship to ship through their own communication channels. The entire fleet is." He stopped, staring at his readings. "They're starting to broadcast human music." Through the command center speakers came an impossible symphony, Vraxan ships transmitting fragments of every human song they'd encountered through the quantum network, layered together in a chaotic but strangely beautiful harmony. Amanda's fingers flew across her controls, adjusting the quantum field to accommodate this unexpected development. Their neural network isn't just breaking down, it's reorganizing itself based on human consciousness patterns. They're learning to think like us. A new alarm blared through the facility. General Martinez snapped to attention. Multiple ships attempting emergency landings worldwide. Some are requesting asylum. The quantum feeds showed dozens of Vraxan vessels touching down in remote areas, their crews broadcasting fragments of thoughts, curiosity, fear, wonder, and most surprisingly, remorse. The rigid hierarchy of their species was crumbling in the face of a weakened conscience. The Vraxan commander is trying one last broadcast, Marcus announced. The speakers crackled with a voice that sounded more human than ever before. To all Earth forces, I think, I feel. These sensations, overwhelming, cannot maintain fleet cohesion when every mind sings its own song. Surrender. Please, teach us how to be free. Amanda watched as the massive ships above began powering down their weapon systems. Some crews, unable to handle their newly awakened individuality, activated their emergency protocols and flowed into deep space. Others initiated landing sequences, their neural networks now resonating with human consciousness patterns. It worked better than we could have imagined, she said softly, studying the quantum harmonics. We didn't just defend ourselves. We gave them back something they lost centuries ago, their humanity. The facility trembled one last time as the command ship overhead settled into a gentle landing pattern. Through the quantum network, they could feel the alien crew's mixture of terror and excitement as they prepared to experience their first individual thoughts, their first personal choices, their first steps into a new way of being. General Martinez stepped closer to the main display, watching as Vraxan ships around the world either retreated or surrendered. Dr. Hayes, she said quietly, I think you just won a war by teaching the enemy how to dance. Amanda smiled, her fingers still moving across the quantum controls, guiding the symphony of consciousness to its final movement. No, General. We won by reminding them that every mind has its own music. We just help them remember how to listen. 3 months after the Day of Discord, Amanda stood at the observation window of the newly established Quantum Communication Center, watching a peculiar scene unfold on the grounds below. A group of Vraxan, their neural tendrils now glowing with vibrant individualized colors, sat in a circle with human musicians, attempting to learn jazz improvisation. Still can't quite believe what I'm seeing, Marcus said, joining her at the window. He handed her a cup of coffee, a ritual that had survived through the invasion and beyond. Did you ever imagine we'd end up teaching aliens how to play the saxophone? Amanda smiled, watching as one Vraxan created a haunting melody using both its neural tendrils and a modified trumpet. They're natural musicians once they let themselves be. All that neural sensitivity, repurposed for art instead of control. The quantum network displays behind them showed the global status of what was now called the Freedom Protocol, the modified version of their virus that helped newly arrived Vraxan ships safely transition from collective consciousness to individuality. Dozens of green dots indicated successful transformations happening worldwide. Latest report from the diplomatic team, General Martinez announced, entering the room with a quantum tablet. 3 more Vraxan colony ships have requested transition assistance. Apparently, word is spreading through their empire about. She checked her notes with a slight smile. The human liberation. Amanda turned from the window, studying the quantum field readings. The network they'd built to defend Earth now extended into near space, ready to help any Vraxan who chose to break free from their collective. How are the new arrivals adapting? Better than the first wave, Marcus replied, pulling up detailed statistics. Now that we have experienced individuals to help with the transition, the consciousness shock is less severe. Though we still get some interesting cases. He highlighted a particular reading. There's one ship in Australia where the entire crew has become obsessed with Aboriginal dot painting. A soft chime indicated an incoming quantum transmission. The main screen activated, showing a face that still caused some humans to flinch. The former Vraxan fleet commander, now known simply as First Voice, as he had been the first to embrace individual consciousness. Dr. Hayes, The commander's voice carried emotions that would have been impossible 3 months ago. The Council of Individual Voices requests your presence at tomorrow's session. We believe we've detected quantum consciousness patterns from other species who may need liberation. Amanda shared a look with her colleagues. They had suspected that the Vraxen weren't the only species to sacrifice individuality for technological advancement. Send them the data, she replied. We'll begin analyzing potential modification protocols for different neural patterns. After the transmission ended, she walked to the central quantum display, where a real-time map showed the spread of individual consciousness through the former Vraxen Empire. What had begun as a desperate defense of humanity had evolved into something far more profound, a renaissance of consciousness itself. You know, Marcus said thoughtfully, they came here to harvest human consciousness. Instead, we ended up sharing it freely. Turns out freedom is more contagious than any virus. Through the window, the impromptu jazz session had evolved into something entirely new. A fusion of human music and Vraxen neural harmonics that filled the air with impossible colors and sounds. Around the world, similar scenes played out as two species learned to create together, each bringing their unique perspectives to art, science, and culture. General Martinez joined them at the window. Pentagon wants to know if we should maintain defensive protocols, given how many Vraxen ships are still arriving. Amanda shook her head, watching as a young Vraxen successfully played its first solo, its neural tendrils pulsing with pride. They're not coming to invade anymore. They're coming to remember who they were before they lost themselves to the collective. And maybe, she gestured to the quantum network displays, where new consciousness patterns were already being analyzed. Maybe they're just the beginning. The quantum field hummed softly around them, carrying the thoughts and dreams of two species learning to sing together. Somewhere in deep space, other minds waited to remember their own songs, to break free from their own chains. Humanity's answer to the alien ultimatum had become something greater than victory. It had become an invitation to dance. Far above, the stars seemed to shimmer with new possibility, as if the very cosmos was holding its breath, waiting to hear what music would come next.